Do you consider getting a mani and a pedi self-care, or would you call that self-maintenance? You see, I call that self-maintenance. Self-care is when you take care of your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit. It's about knowing who you are and what you want, and it's about showing up unapologetically as your real self. Self care, that's what we're going to tackle today. But first, I'm Constance Howard, executive coach on a mission to help women gain unstoppable confidence. And if you're joining me for the first time, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when any new videos are posted. Now, here's my interview with psychiatrist and mental health expert Gretch Gavero. I've been on a pet peeve for a long time now because I hear women say that they're going to have a self-care day where it's a mani, a pedi, and maybe they get their hair done or something like that. And that's the extent of their healthcare plan. And to me, while that those things are important, I feel like that is self-maintenance and
Yeah,
not really true self-care where you take care of your mind, your body, your heart, right? And so
yeah.
you tell me what your definition of self-care is.
I love how he said maintenance mode because those maintenance activities are super important, but they're just one piece of the puzzle. Now, I'm
Absolutely.
coming from the perspective of a mental health provider, specifically as a psychiatrist with a medical brain, and
Mhm,
also one who is a high achiever like many women, a giver like many moms, a sister and a friend. And so
mhm,
with all of those combined, really self-care to me has to be whole. Like you said, body, mind and heart. In
mhm,
psychiatry or in mental health, we think of it as in your psychology, so that's your mind, your
mhm,
physiology, which is your body, but not just like good skincare and nice hair, but
mhm,
really what's happening inside your body functions and your social life or environment, which not only includes what's in the present, but also what's happened in your life story in the past and how is that informing your life now, your self care now. So
mhm,
we do have to address those different aspects from my perspective as what whole self care is.
mhm. Now, why is this such a difficult concept, so to speak, for women to grasp? You know, why is it that when we think about all the things that you just listed, you know, our minds go, okay, turn off. You know, we kind of shy away from dealing with the whole of us.
Yeah. And I I think it's because we have so many instinctive responsibilities that's in the forefront of our mind.
Mhm,
Not just because society tells us, but evolutionarily that's what our brains are made for. Is really we've evolved to be taking care of our tribe, making sure the kids are well fed and
mm,
our partners and the rest of our family who were out like getting our food is taken care of, wounds are taken care of. So imagine many years of having that just be in our DNA such
mhm,
that it's reflexive. Like I wake up and the first thing I think about really if I don't pay attention are my kids. What am I going to
mm,
give them for breakfast and how am I going to get them ready for school? I think
mhm,
about my husband's health. And so because because a lot of those responsibilities and not like burdensome responsibilities but actually things we want to do, like our brains are made to feel good doing
mhm,
those for other people.
mhm,
It just tends to be in the forefront, so we just need just a little bit more effort and intention in making sure that, hold up, in order for me to really be my fullest version, like my best giver and caretaker and all of that stuff, I got to do me also. I have to make
right,
sure that I am
right,
spending time. And gosh, especially over years when we're not, women are not just homemakers, right? We do so many things. We do many great things for our society and our community. A lot of
mhm,
that attention is divided, and we just need to make sure that we support each other in reminding ourselves that we have to, it's not just a once a month massage kind of thing that we have to do. Yeah.
mhm.
what we're
Mhm.
giving for other people, how we're taking care of other people, we have to do for ourselves. In fact, I really believe that if I am now as a psychiatrist, I talk to people about how to take care of themselves, body, mind, and heart. Right.
Mhm.
In order for me to be excellent at doing that, I have to walk the talk. I have to be able to do that for myself. So I think that's one of the advantages I have is that I, I'm able to have so many practice to balance out the looking outwards to
Mhm.
also be in. But I don't think that should be just unique to psychiatrists or mental health providers. I think it should be a message, to all of us, which is why these types of conversations I think is so crucial. We need to take a pause and really think about how are you doing that for yourself. Self care
Mhm.
is so. There's such
Mhm.
a myth that it feels selfish because I'm taking
I was
time.
just Yes, I was just getting ready to say that because
Yes.
I think a lot of women think if I spend the time to take care of me, I'm taking away from my family, and that feels selfish.
I'm gonna say it just right now, it is not selfish. It is actually selfless. Imagine if you're not imagine if you're not giving time for self-care. You're not having let's just talk about the basics, like your simple exercise, your sleep, just enough rest. Let's just talk about rest. If you are not giving yourself care in that area, how will you be able to to bring your kids to school, to be in such a calm mental space, to be there for the people that you love.
Mhm.
So I do believe that self-care is actually one of the most selfless things that you can do, not just for yourself, but for the people who care about you.
Yes,
And I
yes,
don't think many people do that enough.
absolutely. And I also think that, you know, we we think that self-care, not only that it's selfish, it's we don't even think we need it. You know, there was a time when we would boast that I only need 4 hours of sleep. I only need 5 hours of sleep. It was that kind of societal message that was being handed to us. Like, if you're a true strong woman, you can get by with less.
Hmm. And I think this is where the the message from just the physiological aspects of taking care of yourself. Like if you go to your primary care provider for your annual checkups, all those things that they say about eat well, eat your veggies, all of those things. It's it's not just a once a month, once a year prescription kind of thing. It really is a lifestyle. It's
Mhm,
like we can it's like a car that you're driving. Yeah. You
mhm,
can drive that car far, give them best gas and everything, but that car has to be maintained. So that's our bodies. You can
mhm.
have a super sharp mind. In fact, you can't if you're not taking care of your body and not and
Right,
only getting
right,
4 hours
right,
of sleep.
right,
But you
right.
really have to, even if your heart is really so passionate, your goals are clear, and all of those stuff, all of those things, you cannot pursue if your body is not well. So
Mhm,
even if I think when it comes to self care, it's really not just it's not just the outside, it's what's going on inside too. All of those things, as simple as blood pressure issues, or as
mm,
simple as 4 hours of sleep.
mhm.
Some people could do that, but many people cannot. Yeah.
Right. I
So
recently I recently
go.
saw an interview, and the person said that when you have a baby, when you have an infant, or a toddler, you make sure that they go to bed on time. You make sure that they have enough rest because the next day is not going to go well if they don't have enough sleep. And you prepare their meals meticulously, and you do all of these things for the infant, but for some reason we don't do them for ourselves.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense for us not to do it for ourselves, right?
Right.
Of course, depending
Absolutely.
on the season of your life, you have to make some adjustments. Like if you're a first time mom or any time mom, when you're
Mhm.
taking care of a baby, your schedule is not going to be rigid. There's no waking up exactly after 8 hours. It's going to be on
Mhm.
and off. But
Mhm.
over time, there still has to be some sort of balance. Your body
Mhm.
has to be primed for doing the things that you got to do. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if we all just pay attention, even just for one day, from here's one of the things I usually ask on my first sessions when I'm seeing meeting patients in a clinical
Mhm.
setting.
Mhm.
How does your day look like from the morning you wake up until how you wind down to sleep? And
Mhm.
most times that they will say, wake up and then go to work and all of that stuff. And I'll say, let's get into details. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like from what time is waking up, and
Mhm.
then when is rest, what's eating, when is connection time, and then what time is sleep. Like
Mhm.
if we just, but see, we can't, we won't know these details, one, if we don't even take a pause. Yeah. And
Mhm.
because we're on the go all the time, which I think needs to change. Yeah, we need some
Mhm.
time for reflection.
Mhm.
We won't know what to fix if we're not reflecting. And I do think like that's one part of self-care that
Mhm.
most of us don't do.
Yes, and I was just getting ready to say, well, what is the first thing that you say to women, which you've already outlined, like become aware of your day? Because I think that for a lot of women, they're not aware of how they are or how much they are neglecting themselves. So that must be an eye opener for a lot of your clients when they realize, wow, I really am running on empty. So take me through the steps of how do I now begin to accept a different definition of self care, and how do I implement that new self care plan?
Yes. It helps to think of it in three columns. So first, let's look at psychology. So I do see that there's different camps of people when I maybe let's say go online and look at people who are talking about self care. There are
Mhm.
some who are just talking about body self care, like eat right, sleep, all of those things. And there are some who are talking about just mental health. But unless you're specifically looking for those psychological or mental health tips, then you won't get to those platforms. But
Mhm.
really, it has to be whole. And think of it as, let's talk about mental health first. Okay, psychology. What's going on in your mind? Like as you're going through your day, what are some of the things that you're thinking about? Like when you're doing your work, are you present, or is it going on?
Mhm.
Something else is going on. So I call that the mental chatter. That's one of the things I ask about from the on the very first visit.
Mhm.
What's the mental chatter like? And
Mhm.
some might say, what do you mean, what's mental chatter? And I would say,
Mhm.
well, it's kind of like when let's say you're just typing or you're walking, or you're in the bathroom on your own.
Mhm.
What are, how are you talking to yourself? Or
Mhm.
how's your mind talking to you? What
Mhm.
are those thoughts? Because
Mhm.
we forget that whatever is on our mind dictates how we feel. And how you
Right.
feel really dictates the things that we're doing. Are you going to
Mhm.
eat now? Are you going to call this person? Are you going to go for this goal? And that really designs your entire experience.
Mhm.
All of the things that we're doing now is really a result of the thoughts that we've thought about like over time. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we do pay attention to what is that chatter like, and then how is that chatter making you feel? Is it for the most part a cheerful disposition in the day, or is it a stressful, type of?
Mhm.
Does it cause some stress? And then we
Mhm.
go into details about what is that about? Is it something that's happening in the present, or is it rooted in something that's happened before that we need to figure out ways on how to move forward from?
Mhm.
So that's the psychology part. And then I get into details about physiology. And when I say physiology, it's just your body. How are your basic functions in your body? And we talk about sleep, nutrition, exercise, and I just try to get a sense, is there time for that sometime in the week? And
Mhm.
the day-to-day things that we do to maintain our body, like sleep, how is that like? The
Mhm.
one thing that I pay attention to a lot is rest. Now, I work with a lot of people who are on the go all day long. And
Mhm.
when I'm listening to how's their day like their schedule from
Mhm.
morning to evening, I'm listening for when is rest time sprinkled throughout the day. And
Mhm.
many people, we're on that working lunch, which is fine. Sometimes it happens, but it's not sustainable if it's every day, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Especially if you're using a lot of your mental capacity. Yeah, you're thinking
Mhm.
too hard all day long. Our minds are not meant to do that. It wants some rest. Yeah. You wouldn't
Mhm.
ask your kid to be in school all day long, for
Right.
example. Yeah.
Right.
And even
Right.
like mini rest, I think about, how is that mini rest look like?
Mhm.
Now, many parents, we're at work in the morning, and then you go home, you're on your second or third job, which is your home life. I I think about how is that too, Are we on the go all day long, or
Mhm.
are we intentionally putting in some rest in there? And if we're not, then I spend much of that session just to get them started, pay attention, when can you take a break? Yeah. Because your car can overheat if you're just going all the whole
Right.
mile, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so now we talked about psychology, we talked about physiology. Now
Mhm.
I think I asked them, well, what's around you? What's the environment like? Yeah.
Mhm.
How are you interacting with your with the people around you, your space, your work?
Yeah, I think that, all of those elements can really take a lot of time, right? Do you
Yes.
find that,
Yeah.
like, a client may be stuck in the, "What's going on in my mind" chatter,
Mhm.
right? Or they might be stuck in, like, "I'm go, 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 go," and I never take a take a few minutes to just kinda, like, do nothing, you know? I have a friend, and every month there are 3 of us, they're part of my inner circle, and every month we, go to lunch, and
Yes.
so that's a nice break, but here's what I've noticed. I've noticed that one of my friends would be like, "Look, okay, I gotta go because I gotta pick up my son, right? I gotta take him someplace or whatever." So, part of me was like, I applaud her because she's taking that break. It's a monthly thing that we do, and she's committed to that, commitment, that appointment. But at the same time, we gotta make sure we sneak in the fun in a certain window because she's still kinda like I wanna say, like, she's still on the clock. Does that make sense?
That
So
makes sense. Yes.
yeah, and I know that, at the end of 2023, she was like, "I'm burnt out. I'm
Mhm.
simply burnt out." Like, nothing was sparking joy. Nothing was sparking any kind of happiness. It was a matter of we just shift gears and we go into holiday mode. Which is pull all the gifts out, not all the gifts, but all the
Mhm.
decorations out, and put all the decorations up, and then plan the meals and blah, 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 and buy the gifts and that sort of thing. So there's never any kinda downtime.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about balance, that looks different for all of us, right? Depending
Mhm,
on what season of your life you're in, what's happening in your life. And
mhm,
it doesn't mean equal time for responsibilities and equal time for play. It doesn't mean any of that. Now,
mhm.
uh, I think if she was my client, or I have many friends actually in the same situation,
Right.
I was probably like that at one point
Mhm,
too, you know.
mhm,
And one thing that's helpful is, one, you have to have awareness of what's happening here. And I think
mhm,
she's so lucky that she has her friends who notice it, because sometimes people around us, people who care about us, notice it first.
mhm.
And they they care enough about us to call us out and stand
Right.
up for us and say, "This is what I'm noticing." And
Mhm,
then taking that in and realizing that, okay, I need to pump the brakes and let me reflect what's going on here. And when they said, okay, I'm burnt out, I'm not finding joy, that's a good first start. But now what's next? Now that
mhm,
we have that information, what is that prompting you to do? I think it's a beautiful example of what your brain actually is giving you, all of these signals. Like,
mhm,
even just knowing that this doesn't feel good anymore. It's not
mhm,
joyful.
mhm.
Gosh, that's your nervous system telling you that we're starting to get bored. We
Yes,
need some variety. Yeah.
yes.
And
Mhm,
let's gather our resources to have this be different.
mhm.
And I think in that situation, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yes, I think in that situation, one starting point might be, okay, let me just look at my week and what's really going on in my time. Yeah. And
Mhm,
a lot of times we might be overcommitted. You know,
mhm,
what are some things that I can clear off of my plate? Yeah, so that I
Mhm,
have room for things that really bring me joy.
mhm,
You can't Our mind are so smart. It will figure it out if we
mhm.
want to. Yeah.
Right.
And there might be some things that you might give up, but
Mhm.
for the benefit of self-care and joy and happiness, why not? Why not?
Absolutely. For Christmas, for the holiday season, I put out this holiday guide. The number one thing I had on the holiday guide was, I called it DEA, which was delegate, eliminate, or automate. And, I said, delegate. You don't have to be the one to pull all the decorations out and put the tree up. You don't have to be that person. You don't have to do cook all the meals and do all the present shopping. And then when I got to eliminate, it really came from my own lifestyle because my sister always did the cooking, and one sister, I have two other sisters, one sister always liked Brussels sprouts, but she didn't really like Brussels sprouts. Gretchen, what she did was she liked the idea of Brussels sprouts because it was healthy. And so the cook was always running around, "Oh, I gotta make sure I get Brussels sprouts for Karen. I gotta make sure I get blah, blah, blah for this person, and that person." And what I noticed is that every year we'd be like over the garbage, like dumping out them Brussels sprouts. And so this year we decided everybody's gonna take, an activity. Like Susan was gonna cook the main, like the turkey and whatever, and I was gonna do the vegetables, and Karen was gonna do the desserts. And the first thing I did was I eliminated those Brussels sprouts because it caused more angst than it was worth. So I encourage women to delegate, eliminate, and then automate. If you can have those mashed potatoes delivered to your house or on your shopping, you can pick up some frozen mashed potatoes that nobody's going to know. If you throw in an extra pat of butter, put it on the table. And I think that we stress out because we are tied to these old, antiquated
Mhm.
definitions about what holidays look like and what mom is supposed to do and what a good mom is
Mhm.
supposed to do and supposed to be.
Mhm. One
Mm,
of the best ad one of the best advice that a friend gave to me when I was a first-time mom was, you know, "You're gonna read all of these books and watch all of these videos, but at the end of the day, you do what works for you. If you have to sleep
absolutely.
this way, wake up at this time, that's what you do, and don't feel bad about it." Yeah. And
Absolutely.
from a just from a body perspective, like from a physiological perspective, it makes sense to honor what your mind is telling you because it has all of this data about what worked for you before and what didn't.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, though, from a psychological perspective, like those old patterns, we think it worked before and it
Mhm,
might benefited us before, but you
mhm.
can't apply them to new things if they're not applicable anymore. We have to have an
Absolutely.
awareness to update those things. Like
Mhm.
I love the mashed potato Brussels sprout situation because they're so benign.
Yes,
These are food. It's not a life and death situation. So
absolutely.
yeah, don't spend
Absolutely.
your energy spent we have just a certain amount of energy to spend in a day, and we have many things to think about, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I actually think it's kind of fun to strategize where, is this a small thing that I can just, like, spend a tiny amount of energy on because then
Mhm.
I can save the rest for other things, like for
Mhm.
joyful things, or
Absolutely.
hard things.
Absolutely, and that was my point during the holidays. I said, "If the turkey's a little dry, is anybody really gonna die because the turkey was a little dry? No." And the whole point is for us to come together and to have
Yes.
a good time, and sometimes that get lost in the busyness. But one of the things I really want you to hit on is the message that we are sending to our daughters in particular when we strap on that blue cape and take off, off the 10-story building. What is the message that we're telling our daughters?
Mhm. I think you're I love this question because 'cause you're hitting on one thing that I'm really big on, which is modeling. Yeah.
Mhm,
That it's For my daughter and son, for both my kids, kindness,
Mhm,
fun, as a family, those are super important to us. But I can't just talk about them. Yeah. I have to be it and I have
mhm,
to show it to them. And so when I'm having that yearning to just finish up that last email at night, you know,
mhm,
during dinner, I have to really catch myself because my daughter's watching, especially at this age. We just psychologically we have to remember that by age 8, that
mhm,
brain is absorbing so much. Yeah.
mhm, mhm,
They're creating a blueprint of how the world is supposed to be like. So
mhm.
if I'm just working all the time up until that time, if I'm not there for reading time or playtime or anything, then I'm sending my daughter a message that mom's always busy. This is how it's gonna be. You better get ready because that's what you're gonna be. That's not what I want. I want them to know that okay, we gotta take care of our bodies, our what's around us. We gotta take care of each other. Yeah. But definitely making sure that we're having time for ourselves. We're not on the go all the time.
Mhm. And, we're not fooling anyone. And by
No.
that, I mean, we're not fooling you. I remember I was having a conversation with my nephew, and he was probably about that 7, 6, 7, 8 range, you know, and I was in TV news, and I thought that was like, I'm in TV news. And so he said we were talking about jobs, and he said, "When I grow up, I'm gonna have a good job." And so I thought, "Okay, let me see what this kid is thinking." And I said, "Well, do you think I have a good job?" And he said, "No." And that was a gut punch. And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because you're always busy, because you never have time, and you're always tired." And I mean, I was like, I was really devastated. It was a gut punch because I thought our time together was a lot of fun, but I could see how he could pick up on, "You're not really present. You're just going through the motions." And people around you, especially kids, they pick up on stuff like that. You're not fooling anyone.
Mhm. I think it's really a blessing to have kids around, and it doesn't have to be your kids. Like, could be your nephew, someone
Right,
of your neighbor's kids,
right,
because
right.
they are so focused on what's really present.
Yes.
What's now. Their brains
Mhm.
haven't developed yet to be all stressed out like our brains, where we're always comparing now to past and then worrying about the future. So capturing those times is it's really a gift because they're so honest,
Mhm.
and they want us happy. Yeah, especially
Yes.
if they're your kids, they want you happy. And
Mhm.
I an example that's similar to yours with mine is when my daughter was 4. She's 5 now, so just last year,
Mhm.
she would ask me, "Are you done working?" Because I
Oh,
would
wow.
be on the computer, right?
Yes.
And and so and I heard it several times, like, in a series of 2 months or something like that, and I'm like, "Okay, that's not
Wow.
good?"
The
So
message.
yes, and so I really had to rearrange my schedule, and
Mhm.
also I noticed that when I'm a little bit short with my kids, and
Mhm.
short, like, I get annoyed when I
Mhm.
feel rushed, or I get annoyed when they're wanting me to do something. As
Mhm.
simple as, like, "Can you get me cereal?" Which
Mhm.
is not that's not what I want.
Right.
It makes my heart cry when that happens.
Right.
But
Right.
but I really paid attention, and I to the point where I kept track of when is this happening, and
Mhm.
of course, patterns. There's always a pattern, and it's
Mhm.
always when there's something I didn't finish from my day job, my work,
Mhm.
and it's on my mind, and I
Mhm.
felt like urgent about it. And so that really had me think about, okay, let me look at what's on my plate,
Mhm.
what's really urgent and not urgent, and how can I maintain these
Right.
boundaries? Because
Right.
I need to make that transition. Like, my family life is so important to me. I want that, that's my highlight of my day.
Right.
And I want to keep that highlight as much as possible. And going back to modeling for my daughter and my son, like, I want
Mhm.
them to know that I am enjoying my work, and
Mhm.
that it's not taking me away from my family. It's actually being giving more of me to them.
Right. I encourage my clients to change their definition of success. What does success look like for them. And, you know, I'll have them go through this exercise where what does success look like for your family, for you, for your partner, right? And ultimately, it comes down to the relationship, right? And if they can tweak what they see as success, then they start thinking about, wow, I'm not really doing the things to be successful. Right. So success may be I have a corporate job that's, you know, six figures and blah, 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 and all the stuff that comes along with that. And success for your family is I want to watch my kids grow up. And you marry that with what are your core beliefs and your core values? And then you
Mhm.
see that there's a conflict there. And I think a lot of women come to me when they're like, there's a battle here, and I no longer feel successful on this wheel like a hamster, right? My idea of success is, are my family okay? Are my kids okay? And you know, that sort of thing. I just heard um, someone say you are only as successful as your, I think he said your least healthy child.
Mm,
Meaning, if your kid is not living, you know, not feeling love, not feeling, you know, embraced and value, then
mhm.
you're not successful. Does that make sense?
Yes, and people, there's many, many brains, many definitions. Yeah.
Mhm,
Um, and I can imagine talking to someone thinking that success is, yes, my family and all of that stuff. And someone else might say, actually, it's just me. I think
mhm.
it's really a balance.
Yeah.
It can't just be all like what we said earlier. It can't just be all outward focus where it's just all about my family that I'm empty. Yeah.
Mhm,
We have to remember that, okay, there has to be the right balance that feels right for me, where I feel full, so full that I can give so much, to my family, that all my
mhm,
kids are healthy. Yeah, because
mhm,
I'm healthy. Yeah.
mhm,
To me, success is, when it comes to career and profession, actually even personal life. It's really doing what doing what you want to do that gives you joy. It sounds corny, it sounds cliche, but it really is. I've thought about this so many different ways, doing
mhm,
many different types of, work. It's
mhm,
it's when you're whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's being a homemaker or having your own business, that you feel so excited about
mhm,
it and so
mhm.
passionate about it that it doesn't feel like you're grinding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, if you had to give, I was going to ask for three or four or five, but I'm just going to ask you four. What questions would you advise a woman to ask herself before she's ready to, you know, before she gets to the point where she has to see you, right? What are
As a
the questions?
psychiatrist. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are the questions that women can regularly ask themselves that would allow them to check in, right, and tweak? Because I don't want women to go until you are ready to just, jump off of a bridge or whatever. I don't want them to go to that point. I want them to have regular check-ins with how am I feeling, that sort of thing. So what questions would you advise women to ask themselves on a regular basis?
Yes. I love this question. I can think of a million. Yeah. But the most simple one really is, how am I doing right now?
Mhm,
Like, really, how am I doing today? Yeah. It's
mhm,
something that I ask myself in the middle of the day, actually, because I know that by mid afternoon, I'm starting to get tired. All of our brains get tired, by
mm,
mid afternoon. That's when I
mhm,
ask myself, okay, let me take a pulse check. How
mhm,
am I doing? Yeah. And then what do I need? Yeah. And then you can
mm,
ask that in the different areas of your life. Let's say you're at home, or let's say you just wake up. Let's just go through the day. You woke
okay,
up and you have the day right in front of you. You're thinking, okay, how am I feeling today? And what do I need today? You know, and that brings you into, and just whatever comes to mind. It might be something physical. I'm feeling tired, maybe I need a little bit more sleep, or I need to
mhm,
make sure I pack a good lunch. Or it might be, man, I'm feeling hopeless today. As
mm,
I've been dragging this past week.
Mhm.
It's good to have that awareness because you have a starting point. Once you know that starting point, hopefully you then say, I'm feeling down. I don't want to feel down. This is not where I want to be. So how
Mhm.
do I want to feel instead? Yeah.
Mhm.
And give yourself that permission to go all out, you know. I want to feel joyful. I want to own this day. I want to
Mhm.
feel brave today. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because then, just physiologically, now your brain has something to work with. You know, your
Yeah.
brain is there to really support you. It has all of this wisdom, and that you have to trust. I'm 45. I'm
Mhm.
45. That means I have 45 years of data that my
Mhm.
brain is just waiting to use. You feel down, you want to feel happy. Your brain will then say, let's dig into that database and say, what were the things that we've done before, you know,
Mhm.
that got us there, given our current situation. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, but your brain will not go there if you don't ask.
Oh,
So
wow.
we really have to we really have to ask. So in the
Mhm.
morning, how am I feeling? What do I want for today? How do I get there?
Mhm.
Middle of the day, let's say you're at work and you have a tense situation, pause. You only need a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
How am I feeling? I feel annoyed. I feel angry.
Mhm.
Where do I want to be? I want to be not annoyed. I want to feel calm. I want to be connected. Your
Mhm.
brain will then follow. Okay, let's think about how do we get there. Yeah. Then at the end of the day, same thing. And then let's say over time, like let's say you've had a hard month or you've had a hard year, you know, and you're thinking, should I look for a psychiatrist or a
Mhm.
therapist, like a psychologist or other types of therapists?
Mhm.
It's the same question. Yeah. What how are you feeling? What happened? What do you need? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I
that
love
that
those
what do you
questions.
need question, I love that because it gives you direction. It's a
Mhm.
call for action. Yeah. Once
Mhm.
you identify what you need, it brings you to another question. How do I get it?
Right.
Who
Right.
can I
I
ask
love
it
those
from?
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those questions because your mind, like you said, your mind goes to a different place, and it seeks different information for you to feed in. And it just happened to me a couple of days ago. I woke up and I was just like, immediately the gremlins started about what I don't have, what I didn't get, what I blah blah blah. And I don't know, I've done this before, but in the middle, like the third I don't have, I was like, stop right there.
Yes.
Stop right there. And I immediately went to gratitude. And then I
Yes.
went to, okay, I feel better. Let's get up and get going, you know? But I had to take that pause. And I think that is so important. That pause, there's a world inside of that pause, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to give a different perspective on what's happening in that pause
Hmm.
from again a body or physiological perspective, it's so cool actually what is happening. So once a thought comes to your awareness, let's
Hmm.
say it's an upsetting thought,
Hmm.
it'll spark all of this processes in your brain,
Hmm.
electrical currents. Yeah. And
Hmm.
let's just say your adrenaline, and so your adrenaline makes you feel upset or excited actually, but
Hmm.
that whole process takes about less than 2 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
And if you and you'll feel it in your body. You think about it, then your heart starts beating fast, your hand starts getting sweaty. If
Mhm,
you let that go, and your brain is so good at letting it just follow that train of thought, because especially if
mhm,
you've done it before, because it
mhm.
remembers that, oh, you think of this thought when we
Yeah.
thought of that before, this is what we think, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And so it
Yeah.
just goes through a pattern that's familiar. Yeah,
Mhm,
it's just following patterns. And so, but because of your wisdom now, you say, interrupt that pattern. So
yes.
once you interrupt, you
Mhm,
then just you kind of like you allow that 2 minutes to happen without
mhm,
reacting to it, because
mhm.
once you react, that 2 minutes grow into an hour, right?
Yes.
If you just let the 2
Absolutely.
yeah, or days.
Yes.
But if you
Yes.
let that 2 minutes just pass and let all of that adrenaline just do its thing,
Mhm,
your body, because it's made to be in balance or homeostasis, like it just wants to be the right balance for you, it'll calm down. And
mhm,
when you're calm, that's when your space becomes clearer, your mental space becomes clearer, and you can say, okay, let me bring in another thought. You are
Yeah,
really in control. It's your thoughts,
yeah,
they come, but then you can direct it. Yeah. But you need
absolutely.
that space. You cannot do that if we're starting to be all adrenaline out and upset. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's how arguments get going,
Oh, for
because
sure.
then you're like, okay, now because you go from I used to say in the newsroom, you go from A to Z in a nanosecond, and you don't really know how you got there, because you didn't
Yeah.
take a pause. It's only until after the dust settles, I used to think, what happened to me? Where did I go in that space of time that,
Yes.
and it's all because I didn't take a pause. But now I'm real good at like stop right there,
Yeah.
dip
It's
down.
hard. It's not easy to it's something to learn and practice for sure. Kind of
Yes,
like exercise or any type of habit.
yes,
And but you have to trust that you do it enough, you will be
yes,
so good at it. And sometimes depending on the situation, it'll be just it'll be a little harder.
yeah,
But you do it enough, your brain will remember and will say that, okay, when we're feeling this high or this upset, we know that we got to take a pause. And have I encourage people to have like 10 different ways of having that pause. Like sometimes, because in the moment you can't think. I
mhm,
even tell my patients, put it on the notes on your phone or on a
uh,
notebook where when you're upset, you can just look at it and then just go through them. Even
mhm,
just by going through them, you're already buying yourself your 2 minutes, which is
mhm,
which is a gift. So some of the
mhm,
things I do is sometimes if I'm good and the weather's nice, I will go out and run it out if I'm really upset. If I'm,
mhm,
let's say, in an interaction, I I imagine I'm talking to a little child, so it grows a little bit of compassion.
right,
Or I do in my mind, I imagine like doing a big step back where I'm not tunnel vision. And if I
mhm,
can, I even like lean back a bit, if
mhm,
I'm in an interaction, because
mhm.
that space, even that physical space, clues your eyes and the rest of your nervous system to take
Oh,
a big step back. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So where do you stand on affirmations?
Oh, I love affirmations because and I'll give you a story. A few years ago, I think it was before I got into med school. So like 20, 15, 20 years ago, something like that.
Mhm,
I don't remember. Um, I did a personal development training, and one of the exercises were choose 3 words that you want to be, like you really
mhm,
believe that
mhm,
that's what you want to be. And the words that I chose were strong, loving, beautiful. And I think I chose those words back then because I was having some relationship problems, maybe feeling some
uh-huh,
insecurity and all
uh-huh,
that stuff. And then I chose those words. But really, like the exercise was you got to write it every day, look at it every day, like in your mind every day. Strong, loving, beautiful, strong, loving, beautiful. And then it just followed me up until now. And it just, whenever I'm faced with a challenge, I
mhm.
apply those into whatever it is that I'm facing. It helped me get through the early years of motherhood,
Yeah, yes.
and all of those things. And beautiful, not just not outside, but like in your heart,
Right. Mhm,
even when you're feeling so much anger and resentment towards a situation, for example, that I'm thinking, okay, this heart really is loving,
mm,
that this relationship that I want to nurture is a beautiful relationship. And so, yes, and psychologically it makes sense because your mind will always follow what you're thinking about, what you're
mhm,
focused on. That's
mhm,
that's why we have to be really good drivers. And
mhm,
so these affirmations are helpful. Yeah.
mhm.
It's a good trick also for getting that 2 minutes pause. If you
Yes.
really can't think of anything else, go to your affirmations.
Your affirmations.
And if
Yes.
you think it, put a post-it. That's what I do sometimes. I put a post-it in front of my laptop. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. I'm so glad you said that because when I coach women who are, struggling with confidence issues and that sort of stuff. And when I get to the part about I ams, they look at me like, am I paying you for I ams? And I'll say, yes, you are, because they work, they work. And also I believe that if you do it over time and you have your own little mantra, that when the gremlins start, right? When that negative loop starts, it's overwhelmed by the positive automatic talk that goes off in your mind. And while you may have a moment, you're not having a day of being woe is me. You have a moment as opposed to, and you can interrupt that moment. That's what I love most about the
Yes.
affirmations.
Yeah. And it's not meant to disregard the action that you need to take, when
Right.
when a problem is coming up. Um,
Mhm.
it just it's meant to support you so that you can manage the situation. So like you said, we're not caught up in the spiral where, because if you follow that spiral, what your
Yes.
nervous system will do actually is your fight and flight response, right? It'll make you run away, so you're not addressing the problem. It'll make
Mhm.
you fight, makes the problem worse, yeah,
Right. Right.
or it'll freeze you up. So you're now in a state of inaction. So
Yeah.
nothing has changed. The situation grows and then you feel worse. So those affirmations is just one of many strategies that can help you stay in your center.
Mhm. So give women a last piece of advice. If you could sum up everything that we've talked about in the last 45 minutes, um, what is the one thing you want women to walk away with?
We really have to take care of ourselves.
Mhm.
First, first thing, it is the most selfless thing that you can do for yourself and for other people. And taking care of ourselves has to be holistic, meaning we take care of our bodies. That means we got to go to our checkups, and there's certain ages we have to have certain things that we got to do. Right? And follow our bodies really, because as we age, things change, especially for women. Our hormones have direct correlation to our mood.
Mhm.
So, and I'm entering that space now, And so
Mhm.
take care of your body. So that means make time for your appointments and all of those things, even your eye appointment, your dental appointment, all of those
Mhm.
things. Take care of those things. And then make sure that we are paying attention to mental health. Yeah. Because everything that we're doing, including how we're taking care of our bodies, has to do with what's in here. Yeah. And
Mhm.
what's in here dictates what's in our heart. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that is then how we show up to the world, to the people we love, to the people we don't like, how we manage those relationships. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So really, really holistic. Yeah. Body, mind, soul, and heart.
I hope my conversation with Dr. Gravero has elevated how you see self care. Comment below on what resonated with you. And if you have any questions, leave them below as well. And just a reminder, hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when any new videos are posted. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.